Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Bored with your boring cardio? Stop pedaling that snooze cycle to Nowheresville and try some cardio that's actually fun. Supernatural Fitness, available on MetaQuest. Isn't that right, Jane Fonda?
Cardio will never be boring again.
Sweat to the beat of thousands of chart-topping songs inside stunning virtual landscapes.
Bet your stationary bike can't do that.
Visit GetSupernatural.com and join the next fitness revolution. Supernatural VR Fitness, only on MetaQuest. Rated T for Teen.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to I'ma Let You Finish, and completely the alternate universe that we're in called I Don't Know What, because I don't know what. It's I'ma Let You Finish, show number 214 on the Pantheon Podcast Network. It's Court and Amy, your place of sanity. We're going to try to be
Well, I like sanity. Sanity by our standards, right?
I mean, and here's the thing. Everything else is so screwed up. If we can be your place of sanity, that
God
lets you
help us.
know how
God help us.
fucked
God
everything
fuck
actually is.
Really?
Merry Christmas.
When we're your most normal friends, that's like when my therapist says to me, you know, you're my most reliable, regular client. And I'm like, wow, that's comforting and yet frightening at the same time.
Right.
Okay. How are you? Other than we won't even get into it because, you know, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, I'm in the start of my Jennifer Lopez phase of life. What is your Jennifer Lopez phase of life? You all asking?
I don't eat what you're relentless.
Delusional. I'm in my delusional phase. For the next 4 years, I'm just going to act delusional.
That's a good idea.
Oh yeah. I'm just like,
why not?
Nothing I can do about this madness.
No, it's perfectly. It's very Zen of you, very Buddhist.
Y'all voted for all of this madness. Have at it. I'm in my 50s and I live in New York. I will figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Well, we'll figure it out. Well, you know who didn't figure? You know, it's really funny. We talked last week about Carrie Underwood and some of the people performing at the inauguration. Mm-hmm. And we said, you know, obviously, yes, it's an honor to be invited, blah, blah, blah. But we did say certain rules do apply with this particular president. But at the end of the day, she's an anti-vaxxer, white Southern country singer. Not surprising.
Who evidently shook everybody's hand but the vice president?
Oh, well, which one? Elon Musk or the one that was actually elected?
No, the one who is the outgoing vice president.
Oh, well.
People are very upset about that. And
I didn't read that. But what I was going to say is, so there is always this collective outrage and I guess disappointment, especially I guess when artists of color, especially black artists, let's just say that. So Snoop performed, Rick Ross performed, Nelly. First off, who the hell thinks Nelly is a draw in 2024?
And maybe Waka Flocka or something?
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. I continue.
Yeah.
Snoop is obviously a huge draw, but we have seen that Snoop was talking positively about Trump years ago and then went on the rampage against him. But when Trump, I think, pardoned a business partner of his and suddenly was singing his praises, Snoop will endorse anything. Snoop will do an ad for anything. So all of these guys, I understand people upset, but it's almost like, what did you expect? These are, at the end of the day, they're rich men. At the end of the day, they're rich men, and they're CYA up the butt. You know, this is a president who's there for rich people. Snoop and Nelly and Rick Ross, I guess, are rich people, and that's all they care about.
Ultimately, that's what counts for a lot of people. And it's like, okay, cool, great.
Yeah, cool, great.
Go do you, go off.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't performing directly for Trump. It was like a cryptocurrency party. And I can't even get into it now, but I'm going to need someone to sit down and explain to me all this crypto whatever, because it's just giving me a headache. It's not real money, right? It's fake money.
It's
like fake money.
Coins and tokens that come from
where?
People who make them up, and they live in like outer space or something.
Okay, so do you have any old subway tokens? Can we just walk around with those?
Yes, we probably could, and just be like, oh my God, this is a new token, and now we put it in the wallet and sell it.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Let's do that, because I have a couple old subway tokens now that they're phasing out the Metro card too. Anyway, so big surprise. It is funny though that the Republicans, Law and Order, blah blah blah, have like a man who was indicted for murder, a former drug dealers, but whatever. Hey,
well, that's all of the people that have just been elected
and
pardoned. They're all. It's like it is the Law and Order party. If you're on the side where the crime happens at the beginning.
Right. Or if you're black or brown.
The initial done,
Yeah, the initial done. When I found out that those were monks jumping up and down on the floor, that was the great, I don't know why I found that out. But anyway, so big surprise. So that was this week's outrage. Now, you and I have had endless conversations about our disappointment in the direction that Dave Chappelle has taken over the years. We agree that he's very talented, he's very smart, but we've both agreed that his attacks, whether they were funny or not, on trans people, just was low. It was just going after. It was low hanging fruit. It was just like not fair. He hosted Saturday Night Live, which has become a kind of a tradition for him, that he either does it after Election Day or right before the inauguration. It was the longest monologue in Saturday Night Live history.
17 minutes.
How is he not able to exist without a cigarette for 17 minutes? No, seriously. How does he fucking fly? Obviously private jets, but still.
I mean, private jets. He's not like, have you ever seen a photo of Dave Chappelle schlepping through the airport?
No. But it's like, anyway, he was brilliant. He was fantastic.
He really was.
He had all the right notes. He came out. His jokes about to be able to make jokes about the LA fires is really, but it was funny. I mean, that's what comedy is. Comedy is
a lot of it. If you're smart comedians, it's social commentary on what's actually going on in the world.
And his comments about Jimmy Carter were fantastic.
Yeah, the way he ended it, I thought the Jimmy Carter piece.
Oh, that was great.
And then into Palestine, and then to the current, who basically it was like, nice try, but it was a positive ending to a not positive start, because we're already seeing how it was starting.
The stuff about Puffy was hilarious.
Yeah, it was good.
The stuff. So, I mean, I saw some people on Facebook, trans people, I know, and they're it's like, and the woman who posted it is trans and said he changed direction. I refuse to. It's like, yes, he has had issues, but when he's on, he's on. I don't forgive him for that stuff. And it just goes to show that he doesn't need those jokes, because he is so much more effective when he does this.
It felt like when he was making those jokes, because of the reaction of the trans community. And listen, I'm not going to say they don't have a right to react how you want to react to something. I hated that he doubled down, right? Because then it felt like, okay, this is hateful. It feels like a fight against a group of people who are already marginalized and fighting for their lives. You know what I mean? So, and I get why a bunch of trans people who would still not fuck with him, because if I didn't fuck with him, I wouldn't fuck with him. But,
Right.
you know, I did think that, and you and I have talked about this, like I'm not the biggest stand-up comedian guy. I never really cared. But I thought that his monologue was really smart.
Yeah. No. Now, how does he get away with smoking on stage?
Because he's Dave Chappelle.
But isn't it against the law?
No, I don't think it's against the law. People just stopped doing it because, you know,
isn't it against the law? It's against the law to smoke indoors, isn't it?
Oh, I guess it is. But, you know, it's like,
I guess you get special dispensation if it's like you're Dave Chappelle.
And, you know, there's certain people, do you remember till the day she died, Betty Davis used to smoke on talk shows. She'd be on the Tonight Show with a cigarette.
I know. Oh, I love those era.
Yeah,
but that was, I love that they'd be sitting there chain smoking it.
Yeah,
but that was that era.
Yeah, but,
no,
well, you see, there's certain people who can do it because he did it.
I know.
Mean,
it's just,
he smoked a lot during the show.
No, I mean, it's a prop in a way. And I feel like it's sort of like, wow. You can't go 17 minutes without a You might have a problem. You know, you might have a problem there, Dave. Anyway, so it was a great monologue. I didn't watch Glorilla. How was she?
If you like her, it was fine. I think, you know, like, I like her. That was a horrible way to say it.
That was the most,
because
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I actually listened to her album. I think she's talented. I like the album. And if you like her, she did fine. You know what I mean? She did fine.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, though. I know exactly what you mean in terms of, like, if she's your thing, you know?
Yeah, if she's your thing, you were happy. To me, when I'm looking at the new females in hip hop, the one who's giving me performances that make me pay attention is Doechii. Like there's something going, like, and I thought her setup and everything was fine. So this is not a disrespect of Glorilla. Right. But Doechii is giving me interesting. It's art when she's doing these
she's a
performances.
Performance artist. She's
it's
like a performance
giving
artist.
It's thought out. It's more than just like me, the dancers. Here's a setup, and I'm gonna do my songs. It's like moments.
No, it's a performance art.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Have they decided when the Grammys are going to be, or they haven't?
February 2nd.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah, but I have friends in LA who are telling me, like, you know, they're the people who are burnt out, and like everybody else is just kind of like back on with their business.
Back on track.
So, you know, here we go. We'll get to see a bunch of celebrities, probably with a pin. You know, they have a pin or something, and they'll be giving you sad faces when they're like, and I would just like to say to all of the people,
out there,
you know, we stand with you. And,
really, thoughts and prayers.
And then I would like to thank my fans for this award.
Well, there's going to be a very big benefit show out there, and the lineup is fantastic. So, I mean, and
how come they haven't asked us? They should have asked us to host it. We could have hosted it. I could sing a couple of tracks of my upcoming album.
I know. It's what and I totally lost my train of thought. All right. So I'm not saying this because I'm not like one of those people like, I didn't use TikTok, like I don't have a TV. I just never use TikTok. I don't have a TV. I have a TV, trust me. So it's not like a snot thing. It's just, I know what TikTok is. Obviously, I work with students. We would post TikTok, but it's not like my thing. So TikTok is an arm of the Chinese government in some ways, right? So Trump.
They say it's not, but you know,
which means it is.
Yeah.
So Trump did the old bait and switch. I'm going to get rid of it, and then TikTok goes off air or offline, and then Trump is like, and now I will save it. So what's the status?
It came back 12 hours later. It went off the air Saturday. Yeah. This is all a setup. And then they put these messages, thank you to the efforts of President Trump, who was not president yet.
Right.
FYI.
Right.
Was not president yet.
But wasn't he the one pushing for the ban?
Yes, in 2020. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just want to make sure.
And now he's trying to say the U.S. government needs to own at least 50% of it. It's like, here comes the censorship, because now creators have come back, but they're having videos flagged. They're having some of their stuff pulled down. So,
are they? So is it like starting to get
weird little things are starting to happen, and it's like, okay, here is the madness.
So the whole objection to it, though, was that there was a connection to the
supposedly it was
data.
Security. Except when some of the people who are in Congress said they went into those meetings to try to be presented with evidence, nothing was really presented. So then there's that, right? So here we go. Anyway, we have a guest today.
Oh, we have a guest today! Yay!
Rob Birch and Stereo MCs.
Yay!
And we're about to bring him in right after this quick
break.
Bored with your boring cardio? Stop pedaling that snooze cycle to Nowheresville and try some cardio that's actually fun. Supernatural Fitness, available on MetaQuest. Isn't that right, Jane Fonda?
Cardio will never be boring again.
Sweat to the beat of thousands of chart-topping songs inside stunning virtual landscapes.
Bet your stationary bike can't do that.
Visit GetSupernatural.com and join the next fitness revolution. Supernatural VR Fitness, only on MetaQuest. Rated Teen for Teen.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
What's up, Rob?
Yeah,
hey,
how's
Rob.
it going?
Hey, how are you?
Hey. Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
fine.
so I'm going to ask you, welcome to New York on the coldest week, and welcome to the United States as we begin our slow decline into autocracy. Thanks. Thanks for sharing.
But at least we have pizza. At least we have pizza.
And there's a Knick game tonight.
Oh,
They're playing the Nets tonight. I have a really stupid question to ask you, Rob, and you feel free to say no, I don't. But I was in a van with you guys in 1992 going to Wolverhampton to interview you for Cream magazine. And when I tell people that I went to Wolverhampton, they say, "I'm so sorry. Why?"
Well, that's a bit unfair to Wolverhampton, really.
I know. It is the home of Slade, after all. But I did interview you back then, and this is when you guys were on G Street, because I took the train back to London with Keith Cooper.
Yeah.
So I think you were opening up for Happy Mondays.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And yeah, it was all right. So I'm going to ask the super obvious question, because we like to be obvious. Why? Why you guys? Why now? Why come back now?
I think it's fairly simple, really. Just that there was an opportunity. Some gigs came up. It seemed like a good time to come, and luckily this Tonight Show thing came up as well, because we played last night on the Tonight
Show. The Fallon Show. Yeah. It was really good.
And all these things came together, and we kind of thought there was another offer for a festival later on in the year, and we thought, well, if we do it now and we get the visas sorted out, maybe it will sort of open the door for more things to happen this side of the world, and we'll be ready for it. So we thought it is worth coming out here.
Is there going to be? Are you recording new material?
Yeah, we are recording. Yeah.
Okay. Because it's so funny. I was in. You know what Target is, right?
A record shop, you mean?
No. It's like, what is Target, Courtney? Like a department store, right?
Yeah, but they have music. They sell music.
It has everything.
Right.
It has everything. Okay. It's like the
like Walmart
store.
Or something.
Yes.
But with better. Yeah, but not as. Yeah, but better even. They always have really good playlists, and I was in Target. Well, I'm in Target all the time, but they were playing. I heard you guys on the playlist, and it just this was a couple of years ago, reminded me of how good those albums and those songs were. And what's interesting listening to you last night, and going back and listening to the music, it really has not aged. It's of its time very much, but it doesn't seem gimmicky or super trendy or anything like that. Do you think that's one of the reasons that these offers, people are keyed back into you again?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. I mean, sure, the music has to play a part, but life has a funny way of doing things. You know, sometimes you just kind of things go quiet for a while, and you can't figure out, you know, why things are quiet, and then one thing leads to another thing, like nature, you know, it just like that whole record. You say it wasn't gimmicky and it wasn't trendy, and like. You're right. It wasn't. We weren't really thinking about what we were doing. We were just doing it, and it was a natural process. And that's the only reason I can think that these things are happening. It's just some things, for some reasons, we're being brought back here. I look at music like that, a bit like a sort of a faith thing. You know, I just kind of have faith that things will turn out in the end. You know, I just wander about through life.
I want to talk to you
Gordon.
about, I was listening to the albums again, and what really struck me that I didn't really pick up on before, I was listening to the collected three CD set. When I was listening to your hip hop, how much it felt like a New York record. The cadence of the rapping was New York. The tracks, the beat were New York. Like, where did that influence come from? Because it wasn't like London rap in the 90s. It doesn't sound like that. It really sounds very East Coast, in New York in particular.
Well, you know, in the 80s, it was the East Coast that we were really feeling. You know, the mainly. You know, I mean, you know, apart from Schoolie D and some guys like that. You know, it was the East Coast sound that we felt the most, because it was more derived around breaks and, you know, the way the beats were put together. And I guess we liked the consciousness of the lyrics as well. It was more conscious rap, right?
Yeah.
And it was more spiritual kind of vibes in the music. And somehow that was really where we felt a vibe.
Yeah, it's sort of like you guys found that kind of middle ground between like sort of more street stuff and then I guess native tongues, when I think of like, you know, the more conscious, the more, no pun intended, elevated lyrical and sonic construction is certainly native tongues. And I have to, you know, it's funny you say about looking to New York, because at the time when you guys came out, there was certainly rap music in England. I mean, there's always, as soon as rap broke here, you know, British people got into it. But there was a stigma. It was always like, you know, white rappers and then, British rappers. And now England is a powerhouse and a driving force in hip hop, and doing something with grime that is unlike anything else. You know, it's not an imitation of East Coast or an homage to East Coast. It's very much your own language, your own mentality. What is your reaction to sort of the respect level finally that British rap music has gotten over the years?
Well, I think like with any music, it has to find its identity, and that's what I remember from the early days. Is you just start experimenting, and you don't know. Like back in those days, there was no computers or sample packs or programs to help you make music. You just had to experiment, and so you'd listen to music and you go, how do they make music like that? And and you'd experiment with your voice, and first you start off emulating what you hear, and gradually you find your own identity. It takes a while. You have to persevere with it and accept some amount of failure and a lot of criticism, and just keep going, and gradually you find an identity which is your own. And I think that's what it took UK rap, if you like. It took a while for it to find its own identity, and it found its own identity in the forms of drum and bass and garage and jungle and grime and dubstep and all these different forms of music which came out of the sort of melting pot of rave and dance music. And so now you've got a lot of these grime guys which are saying, like, there's a record released last year by Bashi. I think it's called Being Poor is Expensive. Like, lyrically, it is one of the most on point records that I've heard for years, universally. And although it's talking from a very UK based experience of being black in London, the message that comes across in the music is really very strong. And the first time I heard it, I was really blown away by it, and I think that records like that, they really demand a high level of respect because of the authenticity of where they're coming from, and that's what I think makes a good record, is it being authentic when someone is actually speaking from an authentic part of themselves,
And then also what was like this irony is, like, with drill starting in Chicago and then going to London, and then New York rappers adopting UK drill, which was like, like Pop Smoke and stuff, this weird circular sort of thing. It was interesting. I just wanted to, people always think of New York as being like super diverse, and it is super diverse, but in a lot of ways, like, you guys grew up with African music, and you guys we didn't grow up with reggae. I mean, we heard reggae, but it was not the dominant music, at least for me. It was not a dominant music on the airwaves at all. It was still niche music. In so many ways, maybe people in England grew up with much more of these influences than Americans did. So I think that what's going on now is reflecting that as much as, because, right, Courtney? I mean, did you grow up with reggae? I mean, we heard it, but not really, right?
Well, I did. I heard it more, like in Queens, I heard it a lot, but really kind of my era, I want to say house music freestyle and hip hop were really more dominant. Reggae in New York still felt like it was in the Caribbean neighborhoods, the Caribbean cultures, and the subgenre. I want to talk about G Street. Because G Street, to me, was a very influential label. And the artists and the records that you guys signed, like that Carlene Davis album is like her first album. Those albums, just like her self-titled album, was brilliant. Like PM Dawn, and like what made you guys decide, you know what? Because it seemed like there was a group of you. We need a label.
Gravediggers.
Well, to be honest with you, like, we started the label with John Baker and Richie Rich, who was a scratch DJ in London, we built a studio down there and stuff, and we were there for PM Dawn, and PM Dawn, when we were recording Supernatural in New York. We gave PM Dawn some of our studio time so that they could record some of their tracks, which they later released, like For the Love of Peace, which was a B-side, I think, to one of their singles. And for Queen, we was there for Queen Latifah and Jungle Brothers and stuff like that. But once we'd got our first album going on Island on 4th and Broadway, and the more committed we were to that side of things, we didn't have so much to do with G Street, and gradually we parted ways with what was happening there. And I think the more, especially when things got more commercial on the label, we didn't have so much to do with it. And John, I think, really took it on his own path, and then he went to New York with it, and it became G Jam. So yeah, that's the story there, really. You know, we were there at the beginning, but gradually we parted ways with all of that.
And then you remixed my personal queen, my number one artist, the number one in my life, Madonna. You did two of my favorite Madonna.
We have like a running bet. Like every week I go, is he going to mention Madonna?
Listen.
And if I drink,
Listen.
I would take a drink. I'm going to take a sip of tea. All right, go.
That Frozen remix is incredible. And the music remix is incredible. How did those come to be?
How did it come to be? Right. Well, okay. I guess it came at a time when we weren't really sure where we were going. You know, is it in between Connected and Deep Down and Dirty? And this possibility came out that I think Madonna had heard a remix that we'd done for Tricky for a track called She Makes Me Wanna Die. And she liked that remix we did, and that's why she asked us to remix Frozen. And we thought, what? Madonna wants us to do a remix. We thought, wow. You know, we're a bit kind of thrown by it.
Right.
And we just kind of thought, well, let's have a listen to it, right? And so we got the track, and we took it in the studio, and we just kind of thought, well, let's just see if we can get an idea for it. And so we got up a few breaks and played around with it for half an hour, and it was like, oh, actually, yeah, we can quite easily get a vibe on this. It's going to work. You know, it was like became fairly obvious fairly quickly that we could, that's really the basis of how we approach remixes. Can we get a vibe here? And so we just said, yeah, okay, we'll do it. And the remarkable thing about it is, because we did a lot of remixes back in the day for a lot of different sorts of artists. Out of everybody that we remixed, she was the only person who contacted us personally to talk about how it was going.
Oh, wow.
Right. So she was that involved in the process that she actually rang us up, at Nick's house. And Nick was going like, at 2:00, Madonna's ringing, right? And like, Rob, you're going to answer the phone, right? And everybody else scarpers. And I have to answer the phone and say, hello, is that Madonna?
Right.
Yeah, right. This is Rob, right? Yeah. And, it was just to make sure we're using the right vocal take and, stuff like that. But I thought it was pretty cool, to be honest, that she was that involved in the process of it, that she was, because a lot of artists of that stature, you kind of think they're not,
Yeah, they don't really get involved in the
it's probably just an A&R man sorting this out, and like that. But got to give her respect for that, right?
And now you got these tour dates. You're playing.
All right, I have them right here.
New York, Philly, and Cambridge.
So you're playing Philly in 2 days, the 23rd, Brooklyn on the 24th, and Cambridge on the 25th. And then you go back to the UK, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess LA is nobody's touring in LA right now, I'm assuming.
Well, they do have a California date, but that comes later.
That's right.
Like
Pasadena
right now.
in May. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Is this the first time touring in the States in for a minute?
A big minute. Yeah. 24 years.
That's
I think.
A lot of minutes. That's a lot of minutes.
Yeah, it is a lot of minutes.
Are you, I don't know. I mean, you guys do this for a living, but are you nervous? Are you wondering what your crowd is going to be like? Are you, I don't know, like all the things. Is it kind of like you've been playing in the UK, so it's not like you're just going to show up in Williamsburg and do a show.
Well, I try really hard not to think about it because I do get nervous, and we do play a lot, and we've been playing. We're always out playing. Every year we're out playing, but it doesn't. The stage nerves they're still present. So I don't think about. I try not to think about who's going to be there or what the crowd's going to be like, or you haven't played here for a long time, because I don't need to ramp up the nervous energy. It's already pretty. It's pretty there. So, and I don't want to treat anybody any different to anybody else. I think, seeing as I'm holding a mic, I should treat everybody equally. Wherever I go, I should treat every audience the same. And hopefully the local vibes and what's going on in the world will naturally find its avenue out, without me thinking too hard about it or making any big deal about anything in particular. I don't want to be too clever about anything. I just want to be, fairly down to earth and just have a vibe and a good energy, because that's what we're there for, is to ramp up a good bit of positive energy. So that's really what, I'm trying not to think about. It's been a long time since we've been here.
Well, I mean, we need America needs a lot of PMA right now. We are, well, without getting into it, we need a lot of positive energy right now.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
And the Music Hall of Williamsburg is a great venue, and the New York crowds are great. That Brooklyn crowd is great. It's going to be a good night.
Oh, it's going to be fun. It's totally going to be fun.
Absolutely going to be a good night.
Even though it's freezing. Yeah.
Why did it take so long in between records? You guys took like 12 years in between Connected and the next record. Why'd you take so long?
They're like Sade.
You have this big international hit, and then it's like, thank you so much. We'll see you when we see you.
Can I tell you something?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Would you like to know how many times I've been asked that question?
I know. Listen, as a former journalist, I pride myself on not asking the obvious, but sometimes you have to ask the obvious.
I asked that only because I worked in the music industry, I worked in management, and I've worked at a record label. So I always know that when you have a hit, especially something that you have a hit globally, how much people are absolutely like, we need another record. You know what I mean? And I've seen it by choice when artists are like, it's not in me to make another record. I've seen it at other times, but it's just been circumstances, and then you're touring and you look up and you don't even realize that much time has passed. So that's why I really asked the question. Yeah,
no, I understand why you're asking it. It's not. I'm not saying that. I just think it's funny because I remember when we made Deep Down and Dirty, we had to go and do press for the record, and we were taken to a hotel and given a suite. And they just wheeled in journalists like all day long, and wherever we went, that's what we did. And every single journalist was asking that question.
Believe me, I used to be part of those junkets, and you would sit there and go, "Sweet Jesus, I hope." The best compliment I would ever get, the publicist would be pissed, but the artist would go, "Oh my God, I'm so glad we didn't have to talk about the new album." And the publicist would be like, "We just flew your ass out here to talk about the new album." But
well, I noticed from those days when I had artists, the best ones were the very first person in the day, because they're usually, it's fresh. And the last person, because the last person usually knows, oh my God, they've been asked this all day. And they usually try to come with something else to not be like the 100th person with the same question.
Nah, it's all right, It's okay. It's all right. I mean, in a way, you got to look at it like, well, I'm lucky to be having an interview. There was a time when I was a kid just dreaming about all of this, and to actually have people wanting to interview you about your work is a bit like a dream come true, really. So to get back to the question, it's also a funny one because everybody has different time gaps in between the records, which is kind of funny too. I look at it more like, you know, we were on tour for so long after we released Connected that I think to be honest, we were creatively burnt out. Very shortly after coming back off tour, because, you know, we was probably on tour for 18 months, barely at home for more than a couple of days in between each. We were doing, at some points, we were doing 2 tours at once, flying from one tour and then joining another tour whilst they were setting up gigs for the other tour. So we were kind of I think we were burnt out. And it's difficult, you know, you can look at it and say, well, you committed commercial suicide. Or you can look at it and say, well, if we'd rushed out there and just released some stuff that we didn't believe in, that probably would have killed us as a band. Whereas because we waited and we kept going into the studio, and, you know, a lot of the time, you know, we were just banging our heads on a wall, and it was very frustrating because something just wouldn't come. And that's just how it is sometimes, you know. You just can't, there's no formula for it where you can go, oh, you know, do this, that, and the other, and you're going to have a great tune. It just doesn't work like that. And if
the muse has to show up. It's true. The muse absolutely has to show up.
Yeah.
We've seen plenty of records where people rush in and you can tell they're like, that next record was terrible, and they don't really believe in that record.
Yeah, it's like a love affair, you know. It's like, and something has to be there for you to feel like, oh yeah, this tune is good. I love this tune, right? And until that happens, you can't honestly go and put it, you know, say, yeah, we got a record here. So we just had to ride it out and ride out the criticism and all of that. And you know, it wasn't like we were all jetting off on holiday and, you know, buying $1 million mansions. We were doing the opposite. We were trying, but it was just it was a bit frustrating. But in the meantime, we did start a label, and we started a publishing label as well, and we did a lot of remixing. And then I think it was in 2000 we made that DJ Kicks album. And that was a really good thing for us because it just made us go, right, we can make a record. We've just made a record here. We can do it, and it just started to come together again. So yeah, that's sort of what happened. Yeah.
Well, for the record, the Deep Down and Dirty record is still amazing. It still sounds great. I love that album so much. Running is my song. Graffiti's part 1 and 2. The Right Effect. Stopping Nothing. It's a great, great, great record.
Thanks, man. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Who are you listening to these days? I mean, we always talk about that. There's so much music available and so easily accessible that it's almost like it's overwhelming in so many ways. And I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Who are you listening to?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It is a bit overwhelming. And sometimes I just can't remember, you know, half of what's going on. Do you remember names and all of that?
Oh, yeah. I know, right.
You know, we run Nick is running a label. We started a label about 10 years ago, and the label's called Connected. And it was originally, we thought we'd make a label so we could release our own music through it. But we also started releasing underground electronic music. And it gradually, we started organically releasing more Afro house music through it. It just seemed to be where the artists that were on our label seemed to be getting charted in the Afro house charts. And so that's something that Nick is very heavily involved in doing. I do a little bit, but it's really what Nick's doing. So we're quite heavily influenced by that side of music, the Amapiano and the Afro house scene.
That stuff is like, I gotta say, like, that is the most fucking intoxicating grooves. You know, it really is. I mean, I'm a house music girl. I mean, Courtney and I both love house music and, you know, black music, you know, we grew up with that. But that stuff, the how African music has taken a hold in the States is really encouraging. It's really encouraging.
Yeah, there's some incredible music happening out there, and especially in South Africa. And
yeah.
Last year I saw a group called BCUC, and they're absolutely incredible live. It's like they're sort of like Afro punk, if you like. It's like such a mixture of different energies, like ESG.
Like Blackjacks? Remember that group Blackjacks?
No.
Oh, you should check them out. They were a South African band. They were sort of like African prog rock punk.
Yeah, these aren't really prog rock. They're more, I'd say more like ESG come punk, come Afro, with a little bit of Simandi thrown in.
Wow.
Yeah, they're really incredible live. And it's kind of stuff I'm listening to now is like, you know, I listen to a lot of electronic music, and I also listen to a lot of older music like Simandi and Makossa, like Francis Bebe, he was a Makossa artist, and you know, Fela Kuti and the things along those lines. I like to investigate those sort of musics because I just really like the actual energy of the music and the way it makes me feel. And sometimes I just want to get away from what can become a bit generic in the electronic process these days. I guess because a lot of people make music in the same way that my ears just get a bit tired of the same rhythm and the same sound and the same process that's being made to make a record, and the fact that everything could be made on Ableton, and I quite like the fact that you can listen to records and not know really how they made it.
Yeah.
And the fact that in a lot of those old Afro musics, people used instruments that are quite unconventional. And I love the sounds. I love the actual textures within the music and the way that people vocaled the music and this kind of resonance of the voices that, you know, I find quite intriguing and spellbinding, you know.
I mean, yeah, you were right. It's sometimes if you know how the sausage is being made, it can kind of take some of the mystery in the sense of the anticipation of the music. There's something to be said for just having it take over you and not have to know about the mechanics literally and figuratively behind it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something, it's very encouraging, though. I still don't understand when it became Afro beats as opposed to Afro beat, where they added the S.
Well, because the beats is the
more
hip-hop
modern version.
Well, it's the hip hop
version of it.
Hip-hop. And what drives me crazy is everything that comes out of Africa here in America, they just want to label it as Afro beats, which is like, that is not Afro beats.
That's right.
It's like, stop calling everything from Africa Afro beats. It's not Afro beats.
Yeah, Afro beats a different thing altogether.
Yeah, it's very specific. Yeah. And that genre is like a certain amount of artists. Everybody is not Afro beat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's like all Spanish-speaking artists are doing salsa.
Right. It's like, it's just like dumb. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's very simplistic. So that's
yeah. I do find the categories quite misleading.
Very.
You know, and like I say, some of the music I was listening to is put in world music, and I'm like, I don't understand why this is put in this huge category of world music, because usually I'd kind of go, oh well, that's probably not my cup of tea, you know, but I listen to it and I go, this is really incredible music. But to me, it's Afro, it's African music, right? It has this thing about it, and I wouldn't just call it world music. It's because world music can mean so many things.
Well, world music always felt like such a lazy title when
it's
like, well, we don't know this music, so it's from someplace else. It's world music.
Exotic music. Yeah. It's just a nice way of saying not made by white people, basically. You know, this is completely off the thing. But does Bad Bunny have any? Is he big in London at all? Because he's like the guy right now in the United States.
Who's that?
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. I think I've heard of Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't know the music.
Okay, no, I was just curious because he is a reggaeton artist, and he was very kind of weird and, you know, very kind of hip hop influence in that. But this current record is an homage to Puerto Rico, and it's getting incredible. He's the biggest selling artist. What? 2022 or something like that. I was just wondering if he's popular over there or not, you know. And he gets thrown into world music too, which is hilarious because he's Puerto Rican, you know.
Yeah, I've heard of him, but you know how it is with music. There's so much music to listen to that you can totally miss out on the actual what everybody's listening to because you're just not plugged into that.
Yeah, you know, I was just curious the way you would think of it because it's very much a very it's a live music, not live. It's a real. I mean, you don't have to listen to it, but I just thought you might be. I was wondering if you had heard him or not because he was the guest host on Jimmy Fallon last week for like.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's the thing that I talk to Amy about a lot when it comes to music. I'm like, okay, streaming, I get it. Even though I think it's shitty for the artist because they're not making any real money from streaming. At least when you were selling a record, you know what your percentage was on each unit move. Now you see all of these numbers, but it's like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
But nothing is marketed or promoted anymore. So like you said, if you're not plugged into certain scenes, you don't even know how to go look for these artists because every week, hundreds of songs and tens of 20s of albums that just drop there. And it's like, where do you look? Where do you go? How do you find? At least before, it's kind of like there was a promotion plan. You kind of got a vibe. There was real magazines where, you know, I was that kid going and I found out all my UK bands and stuff because when I was younger, I was buying Face, the Face magazine, and all those magazines that came from over there, going to my shop and seeing this person. Okay, I have to go to my import shop. I need to buy this. I need to buy this. I need to buy this.
Yeah, I remember them.
And now it just kind of feels like, okay, it's great. You guys are back. People can access your catalog quite easily. But it's like, how do you know to even go look for this stuff anymore? Because it's just too much there.
Yeah, it's like everything these days. It's just over informed.
Yeah,
right.
You know, it's just like wow. There's just so much information,
and over accessible too. You don't have to make any work. You don't have to work for.
Well, I think you do. To be honest, I actually think you do. I think if you want to find out about things, you have to go and research and have a look and follow some threads. And if you want to discover something, because that's the only way I discovered music, because we do a monthly radio show, and I'm always like looking just kind of go, I wonder what that's like, and by looking for one thing, you find another thing, and then it makes you look into another, like mining. You find another seam of music that you didn't know about, and it's like a little thread of gold dust, and you go, wow, I didn't know anything about this, right? And you find something new, even though it's old. You know, it's like last night, I just by chance, this tune of Nina Simone's came up on YouTube of her playing live in Hamburg. And it was a tune I'd never really thought about before, but it's a beautiful tune. And, you know, just go, wow, never even thought about this tune. But I've always loved Nina Simone. Just something about her just always just gave me a nice feeling about life. you know.
She was pretty amazing. I'm so glad I got to see her in concert.
You did? Wow.
I got to see her in concert.
Where? In New York, in the city?
I saw her when she put out, I believe it was her last original studio album, A Single Woman. Like, she got coached out of recording retirement, did that one album, and then she came and did some dates in the U.S., and she played at NJ-PAC in New Jersey.
Oh, wow. So that was fairly recently right?
Well, I mean, God.
How old is NJ-PAC? Like 20 years?
More. This was in the 90s. It had to be in the 90s.
Okay.
And she was, I mean, I've seen a lot of people, but it was just I can't even describe it.
That's got to be, but you're in a presence there, though. You know what I mean? Like,
it felt like, okay, it was A Single Woman. A Single Woman came out in 1993, so it was probably either 93 or 94 when we went to that show. And I just remember feeling transported into another place. It was just her at that piano.
Yeah, it's a beautiful voice. It's a beautiful venue too. It's got great acoustics. That place. It's a beautiful.
And it was just like seeing somebody that she embodied so much. You know what I mean? And it was just an amazing night.
And unlike when I saw Millie Jackson, she didn't scare you, right?
No, she did not scare me at all.
She scared the crap out of me.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for coming on. Let me just say this.
Really? I'm going to say the dates again. Oh, go, Courtney. Go.
You guys are amazing. For you people who are listening,
our
listeners, you can all stream now.
You can all stream.
Stereo MCs. They're more than just the Connected album. I'm going to need you to dig in. Okay? There's like 8 albums for you. And even though I screwed up and named a wrong remix after because it was Frozen, not music, don't listen to me when I say that, but listen to me when I tell you, they're playing. So if you're in New York, they're here on the 24th.
Philly or Cambridge. Yeah.
And the music still holds up. And if you want to hear some Brit guys serving you a good old slice of some East Coast hip hop that will really surprise you, you need to dig in. The music's there.
Yes. And I'm not.
What an intro.
That was an outro. That was actually an outro.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, technically the outro.
The intro.
Yeah, Yeah. All right. Now here's the outro. Go, Courtney.
You know what it is, kids. Thank you for listening to us on the Pantheon Podcast Network, where you can find us every week along with a plethora of other shows. And I know you're tired. This week has been politically interesting, but come to New York. We still have pizza. And on that, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Hey, this is John Moses and Tyler Morrison from the Fight Stories podcast.
And we want to welcome everyone from Pantheon to check out the podcast that goes from pros to average Joes.
We got MMA champs, boxing champs, NHL tough guys, funniest comedians in the world, and of course, stories from guys like your drunk Uncle Tommy on Thanksgiving.
That's right, because we're the voice of the streets, and we want to hear from you guys, because what's better than hanging out with your crew and reliving the old glory days?
Stories like Rigby, who put that guy's head through a popcorn machine in front of his 5- and 6-year-old son while eating chicken wings at the bar.
It doesn't get any better than that. Everyone has a fight story. We want to hear yours.